喺呢度我哋正式開始啦。咁首先咧就歡迎大家即係參加我哋今晚嘅聚會啦 ，FSHD 網絡與你同行。咁我哋今晚咧嗰個主題咧就講幾樣嘢嘅。第一就係會介紹一下呢個面肩肱型肌營養不良症，咁就簡稱 FSHD。咁我哋會喺呢一度第一部分咧，我哋會請到彭彥茹醫生幫我哋講解嘅。咁第二部分咧，我哋會講下 FSHD 嘅本地研究同埋佢嘅重要性。咁呢個題目咧就會由陳凱珊醫生同我哋講解啦。咁第三咧，我哋就好高興邀請到咧美國嘅 FSHD 協會 Miss June Kinoshita 咧，就幫我哋講下國際嘅 FSHD 病友組織嘅簡介，咁同埋最新嘅藥物研發嘅。咁然之後第四咧，我哋就會請到我哋香港罕見疾病聯盟嘅會長曾建平先生啦，幫我哋介紹下罕病患者嘅權益倡導工作啦，同埋一啲社會支援方面嘅資料嘅。咁最後咧就係答問環節，咁就都歡迎大家即係中途有任何問題可以先喺聊天室嗰度寫低啦，或者咧等到最後咧亦都可以親身發問嘅。咁如果冇問題咧，咁我首先咧就或者請第一就Dr. Pang 就同我哋介紹一下 FSHD 係乜嘢嚟啊？
今日咧我希望用幾分鐘嘅時間咧或者同大家簡介下究竟 FSHD 係咩嚟嘅咧？咁其實咧都個 FSHD 個全名，即係如果英文個全名咧，都係好複雜嘅，咁叫做 Facial Scapulohumeral Muscular Dystrophy 啦。嗱，咁因為實在太難講啦呢個名，咁所以喺英文嚟講，我哋就咁簡稱佢 FSHD 啦。咁中文名都同樣係咁複雜嘅喎，咁我都講咗好耐先講到嘅，個名叫做面肩肱型肌營養不良症。咁其實個名好難記嚇，但係咧，如果我哋理解個病係乜嘢咧，其實理解咗之後咧，咁就又唔係太難記嘅。咁其實譬如點解個病會有咁樣嘅名咧？其實主要咧係愛嚟形容下呢個病究竟影響咗邊啲肌肉。我哋知道呢個係一個肌肉嘅營養不良症啦，咁但係我哋全身有咁多肌肉喎，咁邊啲先係呢個病最受影響嘅咧？咁其實喺個名嗰度就已經有玄機㗎啦。面肩肱嘅意思嚟講，我哋睇翻呢度個圖咧，紫色嗰啲地方就係呢個病咧比較早期啲就已經會影響個肌肉啦。咁大家都見到咧，就喺個真係咧影響個面啦，例如眼同埋個嘴側邊嗰啲肌肉啦。咁其次咧就係影響個手臂啦，同埋腰部嘅嗰啲肌肉啦，同埋背脊嘅肌肉啦。咁藍色嗰啲咧就係可能會後來少少先至影響嘅嚇。咁就例如我哋個膊頭啦，仲有大腿啦咁樣。咁通常病徵喺個面開始，咁跟住慢慢向下咁樣擴散落去嘅嚇。咁由於個最顯著受影響嘅肌肉喺塊面啦、膊頭啦、手臂呢啲地方啦嚇，咁所以個病咧就叫做面肩肱型肌營養不良症啦。咁其實呢個病咁複雜個名，咁究竟個病係點樣嘅咧？咁其實呢個係一個遺傳病啦嚇。如果講緊病徵嘅話咧，通常可能喺10零歲開始，咁20歲之前咧，一般都開始有症狀㗎啦。咁其實最早嘅症狀一般喺塊面開始嘅嚇，咁所以可能比較早啲嘅時期已經個眼睛啊或者個表情有啲嗰個面嘅肌肉有啲軟啦嚇，咁但係因為有時呢啲個病徵佢唔係太過影響病者嘅日常生活，所以咧好多時喺呢個時候咧都未必會去睇醫生㗎喎。咁所以大部分我哋見到嘅病人咧，即係因有症狀嚟揾我哋嘅時候，通常都係喺嗰個膊頭或者手臂都開始有啲影響嘅時候咧，就會即係真正走去睇醫生啦嚇。咁所以咧，如果塊面冇力，咁有咩症狀啊？咁可能笑啊，或者吹口哨啊，或者要喺飲管嗰度即係飲嘢嘅時候，即係會覺得有少少論盡啊，冇力咁樣啦。咁嗱，如果睇到嗰個公仔啦嚇，咁嗰個男仔嚇佢提唔起雙手啦嚇，呢個就係亦都係常見嘅。咁雙手可能舉高會有啲困難啦，好難舉高到過個頭嗰度啦。咁另外咧，去到我哋腹部腰部嘅肌肉受影響咧，咁嗰個脊椎咧就有機會會向前突啦。咁同埋咧行路咧就有少部分人行路都會受影響咧。 咁就嗰個腳板好容易下垂啊，咁就所以行樓梯啊嗰啲可能會有少少論盡啦。咁嗱，一般嚟講，大部分病人咧呢個病情咧都好得意喎，係通常都唔對稱嘅嚇，即係可能有一邊身係差過另外一邊。咁不過都唔使太擔心嘅，因為呢個病情似乎一般嚟講嗰個進展都好緩慢嘅，即係應該都係會唔係話好短時間就會好差嚇，即係都係一個比較慢個發展比較慢嘅一個病。咁而因為少數病人咧，即係個大腿嚇，即係腳咧都有機會冇力啦嚇。咁但係咧大部分人都係仍然可以行得到咁嘅嚇。有一部分人大概可能20% 嘅人咧，可能個腳真係即係最終會差到需要用助行器或甚至要用輪椅嚇。但係咧每一個人轉差嘅速度同埋程度咧都唔一樣嘅嚇。有時我哋都見過，就算同一個家庭入邊咧，都可能有啲人差啲，有啲人好啲咁。咁另外有少數嘅病人咧，除咗啲肌肉有啲論盡之外咧，都可能會有少少聽力或者視力嘅問題嚇。不過呢個都係發生喺少數嘅病人嗰度嘅。咁其實究竟呢個病係點解會發生啊？咁我哋知道咧，呢個病係一個遺傳病嚟嘅嚇。咁而佢遺傳嗰個方式咧，就係一個顯性嘅遺傳基因病。咁如果我哋睇翻右邊呢幅圖咧，我哋就理解下咩叫顯性嘅遺傳啦。咁我哋每個人嘅基因咧都會有兩副嘅嚇，一副係爸爸遺傳俾我哋啦，一副係媽媽遺傳俾我哋嘅。咁喺呢個圖嗰度咧，綠色嗰個基因咧就係即係錯咗嗰個基因嚇，變異咗嗰個基因，而紫色嗰個就係正常噶啦嚇。咁喺呢一個例子入邊咧，係爸爸有一個即係變異咗個基因，而媽媽咧就兩個基因都係正常嘅。咁當佢哋有仔女嘅時候咧，咁你見到啦。咁其實咧，爸爸咧係有一半嘅機會咧，會將有問題嘅基因遺傳到俾下一代嚇，但係亦都有一半機會佢係將佢紫色嗰個冇事嗰個基因俾咗個仔女嘅喎。咁所以平均嚟講咧，呢對夫婦嘅仔女咧，就每一位子女都有一半嘅機會咧係遺傳到有問題綠色嗰個基因啦嚇。咁所以咧嗰個機率咧就係一半啦。咁 FSHD 咧就係咁樣嘅遺傳嘅途徑嘅嚇，咁所以咧如果有個患者有 FSHD 嚇，咁患者嘅子女嚇或者患者嘅兄弟姊妹咧都係會有一半機會咧係攜帶咗呢個有致病嘅基因嘅。咁嗱呢度咧可能會複雜少少，咁我希望或者用簡單啲嘅方式同大家解釋下，咁 FSHD 個基因究竟係出咗咩事咧？咁其實咧，我哋知道 FSHD 嗰個基因嘅變異咧，其實個位置咧，嗰個基因就喺我哋染色體第4號嗰度嘅。咁而嗰個原理咧，就係如果我哋睇係最頂嗰度正常人喺染色體第4個呢個4號染色體呢個位置咧，正常嘅人咧，我哋見到有好多個呢啲藍色嘅三角形即係話正常人喺呢一個基因嘅位置 D4Z4 呢個位咧。係會有呢啲三角形呢啲咁樣嘅單位咧，我哋正常人應該至少有11個去到100個都係正常嘅。咁除此以外咧，喺呢個基因嘅位置咧仲有好多我哋見到灰色嗰啲嘢喎。咁灰色嗰啲嘢咧，其實係一啲甲基化咗嘅 DNA 嚟嘅。咁其實如果我哋正常人呢個染色體呢個位置係咁樣嘅結構嘅話即係話我哋有幾十個呢啲藍色嘅三角形啦。同埋咧喺個三角形嗰度咧，亦都有好多甲基化咗嘅地方啦嚇。其實正常嚟講咧，咁樣嘅結構咧，就會令到呢部分嘅 DNA 咧，就會個結構非常之實淨啦嚇。咁換句話說咧，隱藏喺呢個地方入邊嘅一啲基因咧，就會唔會發揮到作用啦嚇，即係好似係撳熄咗佢咁解咯。咁所以呢個係正常嘅狀態啦。咁如果我哋睇翻去下面 FSHD 嗰行啦，即係第3行啦嚇，咁呢個就係大部分 FSHD 患者有嘅基因嘅問題啦。就係咧，我哋嗰個三角形咧就太少啦嚇，我哋唔夠11個至100個喎，我哋得1至10個喎嚇。咁如果咁嘅狀態咧，咁就變咗呢個地方個結構咧就唔夠實淨啦，係比較鬆散嘅時候咧，咁隱藏喺呢個位置入邊嘅嗰啲基因咧就有機會咧會發揮作用啦。咁而其中一個咧，我哋唔想去發揮作用嘅基因咧，就係呢個叫做 DUX4 嘅基因啦。咁如果呢個基因喺呢個 個 FSHD 呢個問題入邊咧，就係呢個基因咧係唔適當地係表露咗出嚟嚇，咁咧就導致呢個蛋白酶 DUX4 咧就會製造到出嚟啦。咁製造咗呢個蛋白出嚟有咩問題咧嚇？我哋知道原來呢個蛋白咧對於我哋嘅肌肉咧係非常之有毒性嘅喎嚇，佢會影響個肌肉入邊好多嘅問題嚇，例如會影響佢嘅發育啦，亦都會影響佢會有好多炎症啦，肌肉嘅細胞有機會會壞死啦。咁所以咧暫時我哋嘅理解咧 FSHD 嘅病因咧就係呢一個基因 DUX4 呢個基因嚇不適當地咧就係顯露咗出嚟嚇，咁所以令到佢下游咧就傷害咗我哋嘅肌肉啦，咁呢個咧就係暫時我哋知道 FSHD 嘅成因同埋病理啦。咁我或者今日咧講到呢度咯，咁我之後咧就交俾下一位講者再繼續分享 FSHD 嘅知識啦。唔該晒。
係好，唔該晒 Dr. Pang。咁咧，我哋下一位嘅講者就係陳凱珊醫生，係啦，咁就麻煩陳醫生準備你嘅 PowerPoint 啦。
都見到啦，嗬。
係清楚。
咁今日好開心有個機會啦，咁同大家分享。就我今日主要都係講 FSHD 嘅本地研究啦，同埋點解係咁重要。咁我係陳醫生，咁我自己係一位兒科腦科醫生啦。我諗今日係一個網絡啦，咁因為好我知道都有好多係FSHD 嘅人士或者係佢屋企人咧都有參加今次我哋呢一個分享啦。咁喺個過程裏面咧，我就想講緊其實點解我哋即係會引申到今日有呢個 meeting 咧。咁其實喺最早嘅時候咧，當我哋發覺有 FSHD 呢一個病咧，其實應該我好多腦科醫生嘅好朋友都有話俾我聽，其實大人有好多㗎，咁多種病咧，最常見都係 FSHD。咁但係當我去睇有邊個有診斷過啊？佢哋話冇啊，因為香港係冇得做㗎，所以咧就要可以俾得到錢嘅咧就會去外國做。咁嗰陣時候我都不以為意啦，因為我自己係一個兒科腦科醫生。到後來咧有一個小朋友喺第二間醫院轉介俾我，睇完佢之後，我覺得佢真係好似 FSHD。咁嗰時咧我就去睇翻，咦，小朋友好細個嘅 FSHD 會係點咧？然之後我就聯絡其他醫院嗰啲同事，究竟點解會有 FSHD 呢個情況？你哋有冇呢啲病人啊？佢哋有冇去做過評估啊？咁於是咧嗰時候我哋咧就揾到有8個我哋呢啲 FSHD 嘅人士。咁如果你哋睇翻咧，應該由最細個嘅咧就係6歲，最大個嘅咧就65歲。咁細個嘅行到啦，但係咧隨住年紀大咧，我哋發覺佢哋行路咧真係越嚟越困難。咁因為當時咧香港都仲未有得做呢一個測試，咁我哋咧就問翻，咁其實佢哋就經衛生署咧就轉介咗去做呢個測試咧，係自己俾錢。咁至於喺我兒科嗰方面咧，我就用我啲研究基金咧幫佢哋咧送去外國做個基因檢查。咁你見到咧頭先彭醫生講 D4 receptor 嗰啲三角形咧，原來咧可以少到得2個，咁咧就亦都可以多到咧係有7個加減1，即係差唔多8個度啦，幾多？咁所以咧都係細過10個。咁佢哋真係咧有 FSHD。咁再睇翻咧，原來佢哋屋企人都有嘅喎。譬如好似呢一個小朋友，佢媽咪從來都唔知道咧自己有呢一個情況，因為佢好輕微，一啲都冇弱到嘅。但係佢塊面咧就已經係有好明顯咧有一邊面咧係好弱，又或者好似呢個大朋友咁咯，媽媽咧都同佢有一個症狀，不過佢嚴重啲，亦都好似呢位人士咧，佢爸爸係同佢好似，又或者好似呢位女士咧，佢個女女同佢好似。咁咧，你見到呢度咧 ，age of diagnosis，佢幾時咧開始咧有個症狀？最細個嘅可以去到1歲，最大個嘅咧喺呢8個咧就32歲。咁但係咧，因為你見到個診斷咧，我哋係最近先至，即係佢哋先至知道，醫生幫佢哋轉介，去到63歲。咁所以咧，你見到呢一行咧 ，delay between onset and diagnosis，即係由佢有症狀 至到去到佢有診斷咧，可以長到44年。咁其實真係好長。咁至於喺嗰個肌肉酵素嗰方面咧，正常嘅咧多數都細過200幾。咁你見到咧，大部分都多過200幾，有啲人400幾啦，最高嘅去到900幾啦，有啲人少啲嘅200幾。咁但係肌肉酵素本身咧都會有啲高嘅。咁同埋佢哋有好多人咧都曾經做過肌肉組織檢查，咁佢哋其實都會發覺話唔係啲肌肉。咁呢度咧就係一個14歲嘅男仔，咁係我個 patient 啦。咁我哋睇到面部咧都有啲唔同嘅藥嘅。咁其實佢想笑嘅時候咧，你見到右邊咧係明顯啲，左邊係少。咁同埋咧，佢嗰個我哋成日叫做背脊嗰個雞翼咧，係好似飛起咗咁樣。咁所以頭先睇翻阿彭醫生講，佢哋咧嗰啲肩胛骨咧，佢係嗰度啲肌肉係弱咗，咁所以佢係唔夠。咁呢度咧亦都係另外一張 slide 咧，顯示佢哋嘅磁力共振啦。咁個磁力共振咧，發覺上邊係一個病人啦，下邊係另外一個病人。我哋發覺咧，原來左右兩邊都唔同。譬如我哋睇下呢一幅圖啦，做一個例子。咁咧喺右邊呢度咧，着咗燈白色嗰啲咧就係最唔正常。相對咧喺另外一邊左邊咧係少好多。咁呢個係大髀嘅肌肉啦。喺 F 咧就係再落去低少少啦。咁我哋見到咧都係一樣咁樣嘅情況。咁所以唔係淨係塊面咧有唔對稱嘅情況。其實咧我哋佢哋嘅手腳嘅肌肉咧，尤其是腳肌肉咧，都成日見到。咁我哋就睇翻點解其實個診斷會咁慢嘅咧？咁原來有幾個可能，因為其實可能本身咧我哋見翻同翻啲 FSHD 你哋傾有時咧傾翻咧，佢哋解俾我哋聽，其實都唔覺。有時佢諗翻幾時開始唔夠力咧，都唔知。咁就算佢發覺唔夠力咧，佢都以為係啲肌肉勞損啊，或者係因為可能一啲感冒唔舒服啊，咁所以就唔在意，亦都冇去刻意咧去醫生，直到情況真係好嚴重。咁亦都有可能係醫生嘅問題喎，因為真係醫生唔熟悉肌肉疾病，可能真係呢個比較專科係腦神經科嘅醫生佢會熟悉。咁所以咧，可能佢哋都一味安慰嗰個人士，就唔係盡快同佢轉介去做檢查。亦都好大原因咧，係因為而家咧係一路都未有一個公共資助，即係我哋政府或者醫管局咧資助有呢一個FSHD 嘅 diagnosis。咁所以好多時候咧，好多人士都因為要送去外國又咁貴咧，未必真係想去做呢個基因檢查。咁呢度唔再講啦，因為頭先彭醫生都講得好清楚，影響面部啊、肩胛啊、上臂啊，跟住嗰啲肌肉，跟住就會影響腳啦，特別係遠端啦，甚至近端嘅肌肉，跟住咧就會影響。咁其實佢係咧咁多種遺傳性嘅肌肉營養不良症咧，係第3個最常，非常之複雜個基因問題。頭先我哋都聽到。但係我哋咧似乎就冇乜我哋香港有 FSHD 人士嘅臨床資料喎。咁所以因為係咁樣咧，我哋就去做咗一個研究。咁頭先彭醫生講過喺第4個染色體啦，第4對染色體，其中嗰度咧喺個 chromosome 科喺個長嗰邊咧，近尾咧 Q 第35個位置咧出現問題。咁佢哋發覺咧，原來2樣嘢咧，令到 FSHD 咧會發病嘅。咁我而家淨係講 FSHD。第一咧，佢呢一個 D4 receptor 係少咗，3角形3角形咧個數目係少咗。但係第二咧，佢都要同時咧，我哋叫 D4 receptor 咧 DNA 個甲基化，我哋英文叫 methylation 都有影響。正常咧，呢個 methylation 咧個甲基化咧係好高，所以咧黑色嗰啲咧密咧，令到佢咧好穩陣嘅，唔會咁容易鬆散嘅。咁但係咧，當 FSHD 嘅人士咧，特別係1咧，佢除咗少咗呢啲 D4、Z4 三角形嗰啲夾夾咧，你發覺咧變晒黃色嘅，唔係黑色，因為咧佢好鬆散，個甲基化咧變得好低。咁所以咧，佢哋好多研究而家發覺，唔係淨係個 D4、Z4 個數目影響佢，亦都個 methylation 個甲基化其實係會影響佢。 咁我哋個目標係想做啲乜嘢咧？我哋就想睇下究竟我哋有幾多嘅 FSHD 嘅人士啦。咁第二咧就係佢哋嘅臨床概況啦，同埋佢哋嘅基因嗰個發現係有啲咩問題。咁所以我哋喺2021年咧，其實都好快，有56個我哋懷疑佢有 FSHD 嘅患者嚟嘅。咁其實有35個家庭。咁所以你知道咧係即係有陣時一個家庭可能係得多過一個人，我哋有咁嘅懷疑。咁我哋做嗰個叫 molecular clonning 分子梳理。咁呢個咧係解釋嗰個 molecular clonning咧。頭先彭醫生解釋嗰啲嘢真係好有用啦。咁我哋叫 chromosome 4。咁原來咧就係有我哋要 chromosome 4咧喺個 Q 位置咧，有一個叫 A 嘅 type， 有一個叫 B 嘅 type。咁原來咧 FSHD1 咧只係出現咧，當佢喺 A type 嗰個 allele 出現有問題嘅時候，佢先至會變成 FSHD1。所以佢要少咗呢個綠色，你見到咧 D424個 number 要細過10啦。第二佢一定要喺 4QA， 即係第4 QA 嘅 haplogroup。咁所以如果你哋有收過你哋嘅 report 咧，你哋應該好清楚見到咧，呢啲全部都有寫。咁點解要寫埋 4QB 啊 10QA 又 10QB 咧？因為咧原來呢啲第二啲第10條染色體、第4條染色體嘅 B haplogroup 都有 D424呢一個位置。不過咧，佢哋就算佢哋嘅數目少咗咧，都唔會影響到佢變成 FSHD。咁呢度我哋會睇得到咧，就係好靚啦。佢個 molecular clonning 咧，你見到綠色咧 4QA 咧係零舍短咗嘅 ，compare with 4QB 或者係10QA。咁所以呢個係一個比較準確同傳統過我哋見嘅收分 plot 咧，係明顯係改善咗。喺56個患者裏面咧，有40個，即係有71.4% 係確診 FSHD。咁我哋所謂確診咧，就係佢嗰個基因咧，我哋發覺咧，嗰個 D424係細過10。咁喺呢度咧，我哋發覺咧就有大部分都係喺4至5個嗰個重複單位度，但係最少嘅咧有2個啦，最多嘅咧有9個。咁我哋亦都發覺咧，大部分我哋認識嘅 FSHD 患者咧，隨住年紀咧，尤其是我哋同翻年長啲嘅年紀嘅佢哋嘅患者傾偈咧，佢哋解俾我哋聽，佢真係會慢慢咧一路慢慢嗰個力度咧係低，唔夠。咁但係我哋又發覺咧，淨係用個 D424咧嗰個重複數咧，未必能夠完全解釋佢哋個表型啦。咁因為我哋喺呢度睇到呢一班咧，其實全部都係60至66歲嘅患者啦。咁我哋發覺佢個 FSHD 嘅 number 咧，可以最少去到3個，最多去到8個，但係佢哋都可以繼續。咁平均我哋見到3同4嘅咧，佢哋比較少啲，佢哋就真係嗰個可以係自己行，可以行得好慢，亦都可以咧係要用嗰個輪椅。咁我哋而家咧仲係收集緊一啲數據啦。咁所以如果你哋有部分人翻過嚟我哋 clinic 見過我阿彭醫生、高醫生啊，咁我哋會做一個叫 FSHD 量。咁我哋見到咧有啲淨係影響1代，有啲影響2代，亦都有啲影響3代。咁嗰個病狀發病嘅平均年齡咧26歲，咁個 mean 咧係22.5歲，但係個範圍咧可以細到6歲，或者係大年紀去到60歲。咁我哋睇到橙色咧就係個症狀。咁其實原來好大部分咧喺20歲之前，即係話6歲至20歲。咁隨住年紀一路大咧，其實啱啱開始發現嘅症狀係好少，最大年紀嗰個係60歲。咁跟住之後咧就係嗰個診斷年齡啦，就係藍色啦。咁我哋見到，因為我哋最近咧先至真係有呢一個測試啦，咁所以有好多比較大嘅人，即係而家先至有機會可以接受測試同埋確認。咁我哋亦都發覺咧個面肌嗰度嘅影響咧，有啲人咧係真係塊面可能冇影響感。呢個咧我哋叫皺眉頭啊，好嬲嘅喎。呢個我哋叫佢好似石人咁樣嘟長個嘴，好似石人一啖。呢個咧我哋叫佢咧笑依起棚牙睇下，你會見到咧可以好嚴重啦。我哋真係認識到有啲患者佢哋真係醫唔到棚牙，有啲少少。 有啲可以好清楚。有啲我哋叫佢嘟起個嘴咧，係可以好清楚知道佢想錫佢。但係呢個咧係真係我話我做咗㗎啦，我已經做，所以佢係有困難。到後期有啲如果真係面部比較緊要咧，有啲人成日以為佢咧冇表情，又或者冇反應，因為其實佢唔係想，而佢開心同唔開心，佢塊面咧個喐動嘅能力。咁喺過去嗰2-3年咧，我哋其實咧總共咧而家有56名確診者嘅。咁頭先嗰個研究只係部分，加埋最早嘅8個啦，同埋咧平專人佢哋嗰邊咧公司亦都有8個嘅診斷。知道咗之後點啊？我諗你值得咧，我會鼓勵大家咧參加一個FSH 香港嗰個我哋叫神經肌肉疾病嘅病人名冊。咁喺呢度咧，其實呢度有個 QR code 嘅，咁亦都大家唔使擔心，只要去罕見病聯盟咧，佢哋亦都有一個 website 喺呢度咧，即係你要 click 咧，咁你就可以揾得到咧我哋呢一個 Hong Kong NMD Patient Registry。喺裏面我哋有一欄咧係個 FSHD。咁點解要去嗰度啊？咁因為咧，當臨床測試嚟到香港咧，我哋究竟要知道啲乜嘢咧？第一時間咧，佢哋一定會問你哋有冇病人啦，有幾多嘅患者嘅人數啊，有基因嘅診斷，佢哋嘅 D 科、Z 科嘅重複數係點啊？佢哋係咩年齡啊？運動嘅功能係點啊？健康嘅狀況。咁所以喺呢度，我諗大家要做好準備啦。咁我好亦都藉呢個機會，我真係好多謝咧，所有 FSHD One patient 啦、family 啦，咁同埋RDHK 即係罕病聯盟，同埋 Fshd Society 啦，特別係曾生同佢嘅團隊，同埋Miss June Kinoshita，你應該會聽到佢講書。咁我哋香港大學咧，我就好多謝陳教授啦。因為佢可以好支持我哋呢個研究，亦都令到我哋認識病專業嘅貓鮮嚟嘅。咁我哋嗰個研究團隊咧，頭先你見到有柏醫生啦，好啦，咁其實仲有幾位同事，仲有高醫生。咁我哋分別係兒科同埋內科嘅兒科嘅同事。咁好多謝病專業，因為尤其是阿 Patrick Mr. Law， 咁佢幫我哋做咗好多嘅 genetic study， 咁我哋當中好多討論啦。同埋佢哋個 board member Dr. Tam 同埋Dr. Alex。咁喺呢度我諗我應該可以留翻有啲咩問題喺最後嗰陣。多謝晒。
唔該晒陳醫生，係咁咧，咁我哋好快就去到第3位講者啦。咁我哋就會好高興請到美國嘅 FSHD 協會研究同埋患者參與主任June Kinoshita 啦。咁因為咧就阿 June 咁佢就係會講英文嘅，咁所以我哋幫佢準備個 PowerPoint 咧都係中英一齊嘅。咁即係如果大家參加者喺聽嘅June嘅介紹嘅時候有任何疑問咧，亦都可以喺聊天室嗰度留言就同我哋查詢啦。June, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody in Hong Kong. Thank you for being here. If you go to the next slide, please. This is the timing of this meeting is really important. Because our organization, we are the world's largest patient advocacy organization for FSHD. And we have set a goal to have treatments approved and on the market by the year 2025. That's only 3 years from now. Our focus is to educate, empower, and activate patients everywhere, and to support projects that will accelerate the development of therapies. Next slide, please. So this is the good news. Since the discovery of the DUX4 gene mechanism in 2010, many companies and academic labs have begun very focused programs to develop therapies for FSHD. DUX4, which you heard about, is a very appealing target for drugs, because if you can shut it off or turn off its function, it should not have many bad side effects because it's normally not expressed in the adult muscle at all, or even in most parts of the body. So, so across the top of this diagram, you see target ID, lead optimization, preclinical, phase 1 to 3 trials, and then drug approval. That is a diagram illustrating the drug development process, specifically in the United States. IND is a term used, investigational new drug application, which companies make to the Food and Drug Administration in the US for permission to start testing a drug in human beings in a clinical trial. NDA means new drug application. If the FDA approves, then it goes on the market. So that is the process. And what you see below are the different drugs that are currently being developed, mostly in the United States, some in Europe, and we hope maybe more in other countries as well soon. The most advanced is at the top, the Fulcrum Therapeutics drug called losmapimod that Dr. Chan just mentioned. That is launching a phase 3 trial with 230 patients this month. And that trial will last for about 1 year. It takes about 4 to 6 months to recruit all the patients they need for the trial, and then 1 year to run the trial, then another 4 to 6 months to analyze the data, and then put it before the FDA. So we're looking at 2 to 3 years. So if nothing goes wrong, we will be on our timeline to have something by 2025, assuming that the drug is shown to be effective. Behind it are other drugs, Myosea, a lab at Yale, some large biopharmaceutical companies that don't want to be named yet, but have active programs. And then in the blue are other types of drugs we call biologics, which are derived from biological molecules and which can target DUX4 very precisely. You see quite a few candidates there. So this is a really exciting time. I'll mention at the very bottom, a major pharmaceutical company is working on another drug that is designed to support muscle growth. So it does not stop the disease process, but it can support the growth of muscles that are being affected by the disease process. All of the other drugs above are designed to actually stop the disease process. So this is really tremendously exciting time. The question we have for you in Hong Kong is, if the United States FDA approves a drug for FSHD, how will patients in Hong Kong be able to have access to it? We'll talk about that some more later. But the point is, this is a rare disease. There are not too many patients. There may be several hundred families, I think, in Hong Kong. Many not diagnosed yet. But because it is a rare disease, we all need to work together on a global strategy to accelerate drug development and to make sure patients everywhere have access. Next slide, please. So this is a diagram illustrating the different components that it takes to get drugs to patients. I depict them as gears because they interlock, they work together. You need all of them to be working to be able to deliver treatments to patients. So if you go to the next slide. So one component shown here in the red letters, you need to have trial sites and investigators who are qualified to conduct trials. And the good news is in Hong Kong, you do have that infrastructure. For example, at Hong Kong University and you have excellent universities that have experience running international clinical trials. And you have highly qualified and motivated investigators, including many of the doctors who have joined us on this call today. Next slide, please. You also need to have a drug, and biopharmaceutical companies that are willing and interested in running clinical trials in Hong Kong. So there is You heard about the genetic testing company, Pangenia. It has a kind of a relationship with a company called Myosea. And Alex Kisilov, who is the CEO of Myosea, was very instrumental in bringing us all together and helping us have this meeting today. They have a drug, small molecule, that looked very promising, and it was being developed by another company called Genea Biocells. Genea could not raise enough funding in time. They had to shut down, but Alex has rescued this drug and is trying to start a new clinical trials for that drug. So that's at least one company I think that would be very interested in testing the drug in Hong Kong. There are others that we have heard about. And one great advantage you have here in Hong Kong over most other countries in the world right now is that you have genetic testing available locally. You don't have to send samples to Europe or the United States to get testing. So that's a great thing. Next slide, please. Also, in order to have clinical trials, you need very good patient data and evidence. And companies usually want local data. They need to know what the patient population looks like in the specific region where they are planning the clinical trial. So Dr. Chan spoke about the patient registry. That is the most important thing. Every drug company, when they want to start developing FSHD, the first question they ask is there patient registry? And is there natural history? And natural history just means collecting data from as many patients as you can over time so that you understand how the disease affects your muscles and your other functions. They need to know what happens normally with the disease, because then they have something to compare the drug against. If you don't know what happens normally, you don't have a basis for proving anything about a drug. You need to have that natural history so that you can compare. Also very important, we talked about access to the drugs. National health data is really very, very powerful because you need to make a case for the value of a treatment, that if you give people this treatment, they will have reduced medical cost, reduced other socioeconomic costs, like impact on your employment, education, reducing cost of adapting homes and vehicles, reducing the cost of buying medical equipment, and so on. So that kind of data needs to be analyzed on a country-by-country basis. And I'll say, you have here in Hong Kong, promising basis to start this, but you need more data and people to analyze it. Next slide, please. So this is, I think, the most important aspect of drug development, which is activated patients and advocates. If you don't have a way to talk to patients, educate patients and families, and get them involved, nothing else can happen. That's why we put this gear. It's the first one that turns to drive research, to drive companies to say, yes, there are patients here. If we start a trial, we will have volunteers. You need to demonstrate that. That's one of the big reasons we are meeting today, to tell you what is happening globally and why it's so important to start and activate a really an energetic patient advocacy activity here in Hong Kong. Next slide, please. So as I said here, patients are the missing link. You have excellent academic institutions. You have companies interested. How do we get to clinical trials and treatments? Patients are the key. Next slide, please. So we at the FSHD Society, we are founded in the United States. We're based here, but we are global. We have members all over the world, and we are excited to be working with collaborators. And I'm really excited about Hong Kong because you do have such excellent researchers who are very motivated. We have a wonderful partner with Rare Disease Hong Kong that can support patient advocacy activities here. And we have started something called the World FSHD Alliance that our Hong Kong friends have joined, which is to bring groups together around the world to work together on a global strategy. Next slide, please. So one of the possible goals for this new FSHD activism in Hong Kong, one goal might be to join the Clinical Trial Research Network, which we helped establish in 2016. It currently has 12 centers in the United States. This map is a little out of date because the network is growing fast. We have 6 sites in Europe now and 3 in Canada that are in the process of signing papers. So we have a growing network. You notice there's a little geographic bias here. It's only in North America and Europe. We need to grow the network more broadly around the world. So I have been talking to the network directors about speaking with the University of Hong Kong, Dr. Chen and her colleagues, because I think you would be a very promising site for another CTRN center. Next slide, please. Other goals and activities that we can work on together, and that would be especially needed in Hong Kong, is a health economics outcome study, which is basically a way to look at the data around the cost, the full cost of living with FSHD. So medical, healthcare costs, but other costs like just for living expenses and time that your family member has to take off to help you, for example, to get to a doctor's appointment or do some, do your regular daily care. All of those are often hidden, and we can find out what those costs are through surveys. We are about to conduct such a study in the United States, the first one ever for the United States. And we spent many months developing the survey. We are going to be sharing it with all organizations that would like to do similar studies in their countries. We are also working on a new international standard of care, working with key, top academic experts in FSHD. And we hope to publish this new standard of care in a major journal. We're shooting for middle of 2023. And once that is published, we are asking all of the national patient advocacy groups to work with their medical associations to get this new standard endorsed. They can help educate the medical professions in their countries about the new standard of care. So we hope this will improve the rate of diagnosis and the quality of care that patients will receive. And as part of that too, we have developed a masterclass for medical education. This is a type of certified course. It's accredited by, so that the medical boards will accept it for doctors. They need to take these courses a certain amount every year to maintain their license to practice. So they have an incentive. The doctors have an incentive to take the course. If you have a similar system in Hong Kong, we can, give you that material or support you in doing similar activities. Next slide, please. There's also direct help for patients. I think most of you have challenges in your daily life about how to maintain your best possible health. Are there exercises that can improve some of your muscle function or reduce pain? So we have many programs in education and patient support. They're all in English, unfortunately, but they can be translated. We can also host Zoom sessions for patient support groups. So we would be very much, very willing and happy to help you organize such activities. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the World FSHD Alliance. So we work with patient advocacy leaders from over 22 countries now to discuss what are our shared goals, how do we achieve them. Each country has to have its own solution, but we can share our knowledge, we can share our resources to help you get there faster. We can also connect you with researchers, leading researchers around the world to come and speak with your groups, start to collaborate with your researchers, and so forth. So the Alliance meets every 3 months and then has an annual summit once a year. And it's an exciting time. It's a great group, and we're really delighted to have Hong Kong be among our newest members. Next slide. So there's some upcoming important dates, which I mentioned. If any of you are interested, all of these events are available for live virtual, so online. Unfortunately, they're in US time zone, so for you, it would be in the late at night. But we do have on June 16th and 17th next week, the International Research Congress. This is the largest FSHD scientific meeting. All of the biotechnology companies will be there presenting their data. Fulcrum will be there, as well as all the leading basic researchers. On June 18th and 19th, we have our FSHD Connect conference, which is every 2 years, we have an international patient networking conference with wonderful presentations about drug development discussed for patients, so the patients can understand, as well as the latest research on improving care and fitness for FSHD. June 20th is World FSHD Day. That is a social media driven awareness raising day where we encourage people to go on, if they're on social media, to share World FSHD Day stickers. If you feel ready to share your story that you have FSHD and people need to know more about it, many patients do that on World FSHD Day. And next month, July 30th, we're having our World FSHD Alliance Annual Summit. And I want to mention also on this Zoom meeting, Miss Linda Fan, who is a patient living here in Hong Kong. And she and I have spoken, and she is very interested and willing to help support the FSHD patient group here in Hong Kong. So we have someone who's stepped up, and we hope some others of you will also join her to really help get a patient movement going here in Hong Kong. Next slide, please. Or is there, that's it, okay. All right, so this is just to show, we are doing a lot of things, all of those things on the left, but they are all targeting this one goal. If you can click advance to the slides. So you have all the biotech companies. We can lift them all to help them get treatments to patients. This presentation, thank you.
Yes, thank you, June. 咁好啦，跟住落嚟咧，去到我哋今晚嘅最後一位講者就係香港罕見疾病聯盟會長曾建平先生，咁就會同我哋講下呢個我哋介紹下我哋機構啦，同埋可以俾到FSHD 患者咧一啲咩嘅支援嘅。咁Kitty，
好啊，首先好多謝各位今晚禮拜六晚都抽時間出席呢一個咁嘅活動啦。咁亦都好多謝阿彭醫生、陳醫生同埋 June 頭先咧都即係做咗一啲好全面，亦都好深入咁樣介紹 FSHD 嘅有關嘅疾病啦，同埋尤其係 June 咧都係講咗好多令人好開心嘅消息嚇，即係未來幾年喺 FSHD 呢個病咧應該有好大嘅發展嘅特別喺治療方面。咁我今晚咧係簡單同大家咧就係介紹一下罕能嘅情況啦。嗱，香港罕見疾病聯盟咧就係喺2014年嘅12月成立。 咁到而家咧就大概係7年半嘅時間。咁我哋咧主要係有見於咧罕見病大家都知道啦嚇，即係每一種病可能嗰個病人人數都唔多，咁咧就但係咧就即係唔同嘅罕見病嘅種類就係好多嘅。咁某一個病類嘅病友咧，即係有啲要組織一個病人團體都唔係咁容易。咁即使係有啲病人團體、病人小組咧，嗰個聲音亦都未必夠大咧，係去令到公眾啊或者政府咧係重視大家嘅訴求。咁所以我哋希望係有一個平台咧，就等罕病病友嘅聲音可以集結埋，即係好似一個擴音機咁樣嚇。即係就變咗係即係更多嘅人啊，或者係政府嘅決策者都可以聽到呢啲聲音而有所回應。咁咧嗱，我哋咧就到最近為止大概有610幾位嘅會員，咁就涵蓋咗170幾種不同嘅罕見病。咁其中亦都有幾位咧係 FSHD 嘅病友咧係我哋嘅會員嚟嘅。咁我哋咧就係即係嗰個管治架構咧，我哋係有一個理事會，而家有10位朋友，咁其中有8位咧都係一啲病友或者係一啲照顧者，咁有2位咧係一位係社工，另一位咧就係港大醫學院嘅一位副院長，咁佢係一個科學家嚟嘅。咁就下一張 slide 唔該。嗱，可能咧我哋最主要咧係做3樣嘢。第一咧就係做一啲政策倡導嘅工作，正頭先阿 June 好多時都講就係需要一啲病人嘅倡導嘅工作咧，係推動一啲治療嘅引入啊咁樣。咁第二樣嘢我哋做嘅咧就係一啲提升認知嘅工作，因為大家都知道即係罕病咧，可能好多即係市民啊，好多朋友都唔明白乜嘢叫罕病。甚至無咧，就係有啲罕病病友本身對自己個病都唔係好認識，咁所以咧係提升認知，亦都係我哋好重要嘅工作。第3樣就係我哋叫能力嘅建設。咁我哋希望咧係可以係即係培訓更多不同罕病種類嘅病友咧，係作為一個病人嘅領袖咧，係去帶領嗰個自己嘅團體啊，同埋咧係同社會各方面去。即係溝通啊，去打交道啊，使到自己嗰個病友嘅利益咧係可以得到更好嘅一啲嘅保障啊。咁呢個就主要我哋即係3大嘅核心業務啦嚇。咁下一張 slide 咧就大家即係我都可以簡單介紹咧，其實罕盟咧我哋喺嗰個倡導方面咧，過去幾年咧亦都係喺一啲罕見病嘅藥物引入醫管局同埋喺引入安全網方面咧，都係即係有一定嘅即係呢個進展嘅。咁大家喺張 slide 可以睇到，我哋喺過去幾年有一啲病即係啲罕見病嘅藥物咧，係成功咁樣引入咗去醫管局嘅藥物名冊啦，亦都係入咗關愛基金啊或者撒瑪利亞基金，咁使到有需要用藥嘅病友咧係可以咧係得到呢啲藥物嘅治療。咁而最新咧就係可能FSHD 嘅病友都比較熟悉就係 SMA 啦，即係脊髓肌肉萎縮症嘅病友。咁佢哋咧就早幾年咧就係有一隻係打針嘅藥入咗嚟，咁但係當時就只限於俾一啲即係兒科嘅病友。咁就成人嘅病友咧都有幾年時間咧都喺度即係喺度問點解我哋仲未有藥可以醫啊咁樣。咁我哋亦都係即係同呢個醫管局啊，同呢個藥廠一齊去合作。咁當然亦都得到呢個瑪麗醫院嘅即係大力嘅支持啦。咁所以喺舊年年尾、今年年初開始咗個 SMA 嘅呢個叫做恩恤用藥計劃。咁就有大概有幾十名嘅病友而家咧係喺呢個計劃裏邊係用緊藥㗎啦。咁我哋都好希望咧，如果 FSHD 咧好似阿 June 講咧，2025年咧應該會有藥咧係出到嚟。咁就我哋都希望可以咧係即係有各種不同嘅一啲嘅計劃咧，使到FSHD 嘅病友咧可以到時咧係及早係用到藥咧係治療自己嘅疾病。咁下一張 slide 咧，我又即係簡單講講即係目前咧喺 FSHD 未有一個自己嘅病友組織嘅時候咧， 各位 FSHD 嘅病友如果加入罕盟即係有啲乜嘢嘅好處咧？嗱，第一即係如果我哋罕盟裏邊有比較多嘅病友嘅時候咧，我哋就可以咧係即係集中到知道 FSHD 嘅病友嗰個需要啊個訴求啊，咁然之後可以咧係向各方面咧係去溝通啊反映啊咁樣。第二咧就係即係我哋亦都可以作為一個橋梁咧，同一啲專家去溝通。譬如講我哋收集咗啲信息咧，就可以集中同阿陳醫生啊、同阿彭醫生啊去溝通，就唔係話要病友一個一個咧，你可能去覆診嘅時候都未必一定見到陳醫生或者彭醫生嘅喎，咁你嗰啲信息就未必可以好即係集中咁樣去到啲專家嗰度。咁同時咧，如果專家有啲咩意見咧，我哋亦都可以透過罕盟嘅平台咧，係轉達翻俾各位嘅病友。咁另外咧，罕盟咧，我哋亦都係即係有一啲即係唔係太多啦嚇，我哋時不時咧啲病人福利，好似最近一兩年嗰個疫情咧，我哋都即係時不時都會係有一啲物資咧，係俾啲病友譬如講係一啲抗疫嘅用品啊，或者係有一啲最近亦都馬會贊助，咁我哋有啲超級市場嘅呢個購物券啊，咁就係即係希望使到啲病友喺疫情嘅情形之下，都喺個生活不受到太大嘅影響啦。咁另外咧就罕盟亦都有自己嘅一啲病友嘅活動，譬如講我哋有一啲研討會啊，亦都有時有一啲嘅即係聚餐啊、迎新會啊，或者係有啲活動啊等等，都好希望咧係即係各類唔同病友咧係即係大家坐埋一齊咧係去一齊去分享啊，一齊用一個正面嘅態度去面對疾病啊咁樣。咁呢啲如果係 FSHD 嘅朋友係加入咗罕盟咧，亦都可以一齊咧係同其他各類罕病病友一齊去即係去喺罕盟嘅呢個平台咧係即係去做自己嘅嘢。咁最後一張 slide 咧就係我哋咧其實就係好希望咧香港嘅 FSHD 嘅病友咧能夠有自己嘅組織，好似頭先阿 June 講咧，即係如果香港有呢一個病類嘅一個病友嘅倡導組織咧，對於即係其實對於每一位病友亦都係好事嚟嘅，因為如果有個咁嘅組織嘅時候咧，相信喺臨床嘅試驗啊，或者係未來嗰個藥物嚟到香港嘅時候咧，即係有一個咁嘅組織嘅推動咧，就一定咧係會使到有需要嘅病友咧係盡快可以咧係得到呢啲藥物嘅治療。咁如果係即係病友係有興趣係探討成立呢個 FSHD 病友嘅組織咧，罕盟係會全力咁樣支持。我哋咧係可以即係向大家提供一啲意見啦，或者係去即係譬如講有啲需要喺成立團體方面做嘅一啲手續啊，甚至乎喺初期有啲經費上面需要支持咧，咁罕盟都會咧係即係盡我哋嘅能力咧係去支持去成立呢個團體。咁我頭先都好開心咧，聽到阿 June 講咧有位叫 Linda 嘅病友咧，佢係即係好熱心，希望喺香港可以咧係有一個 FSHD 病友嘅平台。咁即係如果 Linda 可以即係同罕盟一齊去合作去協助咧，咁我哋亦都好開心。咁就大家可以希望早日咧係推動成立到呢一個咁嘅團體嘅。好，我今晚分享到呢度為止。多謝各位。
好，唔該晒 KB。